In a quiet corner of the countryside, surrounded by lush green fields and winding dirt roads, stood a modest military base. It wasn't the kind of place that caught much attention from the outside world, but it was home to Sergeant Emily Carter, one of the most dedicated members of her unit. What set Emily apart wasn't just her sharp instincts or years of training. It was her unique partnership with two highly skilled Belgian Malinois named Titan and Luna. These dogs weren't just pets. They were elite military canines trained for some of the toughest missions imaginable. Emily had always been passionate about working with animals. Growing up on a farm, she'd spent her childhood surrounded by dogs, horses, and other creatures. But when she joined the military, she discovered her true calling, becoming a canine handler. It wasn't an easy path. Many doubted her ability to handle such demanding work, especially since there were so few women in the field. Some questioned whether she could keep up with the physical demands or earn the respect of her peers. But Emily didn't let those doubts define her. Instead, she poured all her energy into building trust with Titan and Luna, determined to prove herself not only to others, but also to herself. Titan was the larger of the two dogs, muscular and fearless, with a deep bark that could stop anyone in their tracks. He specialized in apprehension and protection, capable of taking down even the strongest opponents. Luna, on the other hand, was smaller but incredibly agile. Her keen sense of smell made her invaluable for detecting explosives and tracking targets. Together, they formed a dynamic team, a perfect balance of strength and precision. And under Emily's guidance, they became unstoppable. The bond between Emily and her dogs went far beyond professional duty. They shared a connection built on mutual trust and understanding. Whether it was long hours of training exercises or quiet moments during downtime, Emily treated Titan and Luna like family. She knew their quirks, their strengths, and even their weaknesses. For instance, Titan loved playing fetch but hated water, while Luna adored swimming and would dive into any pond she found. These little details might have seemed trivial to outsiders, but to Emily, they mattered deeply because they reminded her that these dogs weren't machines. They were living beings who relied on her as much as she relied on them. Despite her success within the military, life wasn't without its challenges for Emily. Being one of the few female canine handlers meant constantly proving herself in a male-dominated environment. There were times when colleagues underestimated her abilities, assuming she couldn't handle the pressure or lead her team effectively. But every time she stepped onto the field with Titan and Luna by her side, she silenced those doubts. Their flawless execution of missions spoke louder than words ever could. On weekends, when Emily wasn't on active duty, she often took Titan and Luna out for walks around town. It was a chance for them to relax after weeks of intense training and operations. The townsfolk had grown accustomed to seeing the trio strolling through the streets, though many still marveled at how disciplined the dogs were. Children would wave excitedly, and parents would smile, knowing they were witnessing something special, a bond forged through years of hard work and dedication. Little did Emily know, however, that one of these seemingly ordinary outings would change everything. Unbeknownst to her, a group of rowdy bikers loitering near a local diner was about to challenge not only her skills, but also the loyalty and discipline of her beloved companions. While Emily walked peacefully with Titan and Luna, unaware of what lay ahead, fate was preparing to test their strength and teach a lesson no one would soon forget. Back at the military base, the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the open fields. Emily walked Titan and Luna toward their kennels, her mind replaying the events of the day. Though she had handled countless missions with her dogs, this encounter felt different. It wasn't a planned operation or a high-stakes mission. It was personal. For the first time in a while, she allowed herself to reflect on how it felt to be underestimated, mocked, and ultimately vindicated. As she reached the kennel area, Captain Harris, her commanding officer, approached her. He was a tall man with graying hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, but there was warmth in his eyes as he greeted her. "Carter," he said, his tone curious, "I heard some chatter about what happened in town today. Care to fill me in?" Emily hesitated for a moment, unsure of how much detail to share, but something about the captain's steady gaze encouraged her to speak openly. She recounted the incident step by step, the bikers' taunts, their reckless behavior, and how Titan and Luna had responded with precision and discipline. As she spoke, she noticed a flicker of pride in the captain's expression. When she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. "You know," he said, leaning against the fence post, "there's a lesson here, not just for those bikers, but for everyone who underestimates people like you." Emily raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The captain continued. "They saw a woman walking two dogs and assumed they could push her around. What they didn't realize is that strength isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. It's in the bond you have with your team, the years of training behind every move, and the trust between you and your dogs." His words resonated deeply with Emily. She had spent so much of her career proving herself to skeptics, yet moments like these reminded her that true strength wasn't about seeking approval, it was about staying true to her values. The captain gestured toward Titan and Luna, who were lounging comfortably in their kennels after being fed and watered. "These animals aren't just tools," he said. "They're partners, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to understand it." Emily smiled faintly, feeling a sense of validation she rarely allowed herself to acknowledge. Her bond with Titan and Luna wasn't something she could explain easily. It had to be seen, felt, and respected. Later that evening, as the base grew quieter, Emily sat outside the kennels with a cup of coffee in hand. Titan rested his head on her lap, his warm breath steady as he dozed off. Luna curled up nearby, her ears twitching occasionally at distant sounds. In that peaceful moment, Emily reflected on the bikers' earlier insults. At first, their words had stung, not because they doubted her abilities, but because they dismissed the hard work and dedication that went into her partnership with her dogs. Yet now, sitting here surrounded by the calm presence of her companions, she realized their mockery didn't matter. Their opinions couldn't diminish what she and her dogs had built together. Her thoughts drifted to the leader of the biker group, whose bravado had crumbled so quickly when faced with reality. She wondered if he would think twice before mocking someone else, or if he would simply brush it off as a bad day. Either way, Emily knew she had done her part. By standing her ground, she hadn't just defended herself and her dogs. She had shown the world that respect had to be earned, not demanded. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle above, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. Challenges like today's weren't just obstacles, they were opportunities to grow stronger, to remind herself why she chose this path in the first place. Every insult, every doubt, only fueled her determination to keep pushing forward. And with Titan and Luna by her side, she knew she could face anything life threw her way. Before heading inside, Emily gave both dogs one last pat, whispering softly, "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" Titan let out a contented sigh, while Luna wagged her tail lazily. No further words were needed. Together, they had proven once again that strength wasn't defined by size, gender, or appearances. It was about heart, trust, and the unbreakable bonds forged through shared experiences. On a sunny afternoon, Emily decided to take Titan and Luna for a leisurely walk through the nearby town. The weather was perfect. Bright blue skies, a gentle breeze, and just enough warmth to make it feel like a mini vacation from their usual rigorous schedule. Wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt instead of her standard-issue uniform, Emily blended in with the townsfolk. Her dogs trotted happily beside her, their leashes loose as they sniffed the air and explored the scents of the bustling streets. For once, they weren't focused on training drills or high-stakes missions. This was their time to unwind. As she passed by a local diner, Emily noticed a group of bikers sitting outside. Their loud laughter echoed across the street, drawing attention from passersby. They were dressed in leather jackets adorned with patches, their motorcycles gleaming under the sunlight. Empty beer bottles littered the table, and the smell of smoke hung heavily in the air. At first, Emily paid them no mind, focusing instead on keeping Titan and Luna calm amidst the noise. But then one of the men spotted her and called out, "Hey, look at this little lady playing soldier with her puppies." Emily froze mid-step, her grip tightening slightly on the leashes. She didn't want trouble, so she chose to ignore the comment and kept walking. But the man wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, grinning smugly as he raised his voice louder. "What's the deal with these mutts? Think they're gonna save the world or something?" His friends burst into laughter, slapping the table and egging him on. One of them chimed in, "Yeah, bet those dogs couldn't even catch a squirrel." The mocking continued, each insult more cutting than the last. Another biker sneered, "You sure you're not just using them to carry your purse?" The group roared with amusement, clearly enjoying themselves at Emily's expense. Passers-by glanced awkwardly, unsure whether to intervene or hurry past. Some shook their heads disapprovingly, while others simply looked away, unwilling to get involved. Titan and Luna, sensing the tension in their handler, began to grow restless. Titan's ears perked up, and he let out a low growl, his muscles tensing beneath his sleek coat. Luna mirrored his reaction, her tail stiffening as she locked eyes with the noisy group. Emily immediately gave both dogs a subtle command to stay calm, her voice soft but firm. She knew better than to let emotions take over, especially in public. Still, the constant jeering was hard to brush off. Each comment felt like a jab not only at her, but also at the countless hours of effort she and her dogs had invested in their partnership. When Emily finally turned to face the bikers, hoping her stern expression might silence them, the leader of the group stood up and stepped closer. He towered over her, his shadow falling across her and the dogs. With a smirk, he said, "Come on, sweetheart, don't be shy. Show us what your fancy lapdogs can do." His tone dripped with mockery, and his friends cheered him on, clearly expecting Emily to shrink back in embarrassment. But Emily didn't flinch. Years of training and discipline kicked in, steadying her nerves. She straightened her posture, meeting the man's gaze with unwavering confidence. Though her heart raced, she refused to let fear show. Behind her, Titan and Luna remained alert, their bodies coiled like springs, ready to act at her command. The situation was escalating quickly, and Emily realized that ignoring the bikers wouldn't make them stop. Something inside her snapped, not out of anger, but out of a deep sense of pride for the work she and her dogs did every day. Before she could respond, another biker grabbed a stick lying near the curb and hurled it toward Luna, striking her lightly on the flank. The dog yelped in surprise, jerking back instinctively. That was the final straw. Emily's patience evaporated in an instant. She stepped forward, her voice sharp and commanding as she addressed the group. "You've made your point," she said, her tone icy. "Now leave us alone, or regret it." The bikers exchanged glances, their grins widening as if they thought Emily was bluffing. Little did they know, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. The next morning, Emily woke up to an unexpected buzz around the base. News of the encounter with the bikers had spread faster than she could have imagined. Thanks to a bystander who had captured parts of the incident on their phone and posted it online. By breakfast time, the video had gone viral, racking up thousands of views and comments from people all over the country. The clip showed Titan lunging at the motorcycle wheel, Luna circling one of the bikers, and Emily standing tall amidst the chaos. It was raw, powerful, and impossible to ignore. At first, Emily felt uneasy about the sudden attention. She wasn't someone who sought the spotlight. Her work with Titan and Luna was personal, something she did out of passion rather than for recognition. But as she scrolled through some of the comments during a quiet moment in the mess hall, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Not for herself, but for what the video represented. Comment after comment praised not only her courage, but also the discipline and skill of her dogs. People called them heroes, role models, and symbols of resilience. One commenter wrote, "This is what respect looks like," while another added, "These dogs are proof that training and teamwork can overcome arrogance." Word of the video reached veterans groups and K-9 advocacy organizations, sparking discussions about the vital role service animals play in protecting communities. Many former military handlers chimed in, sharing stories of their own experiences and expressing admiration for Emily's composure under pressure. Some even reached out directly to her via social media, thanking her for reminding the public of the sacrifices made by K-9 units and their handlers. Emily found herself overwhelmed, not by the praise, but by the sense of connection she felt with others who understood the bond between humans and their canine partners. Captain Harris brought up the video during their morning briefing, addressing the entire unit. What happened yesterday wasn't just a personal victory for Sergeant Carter, he said, his voice firm but proud. It was a reminder of why we do what we do. Every day, our K-9 teams put in countless hours of training, often without recognition. This is a chance for everyone to see the results of that hard work and dedication. His words resonated deeply with the team, many of whom nodded in agreement. For once, the spotlight wasn't just on Emily. It was on the entire program, shining a light on the importance of K-9 units in military operations. Despite the positive response, Emily remained grounded. She knew that fame, even temporary fame, could be fleeting. What mattered most to her was the impact the incident might have on changing perceptions. Too often, people underestimated the capabilities of working dogs, or worse, dismissed them as mere pets. This video was a chance to educate, to show the world that these animals were highly trained professionals capable of extraordinary feats. That evening, Emily took Titan and Lucy for a walk around the base, enjoying the cool breeze and the peaceful quiet. As they strolled past rows of barracks, she noticed several recruits watching her with newfound respect. One young soldier approached hesitantly, holding out his hand to pet Titan. "Ma'am, I just wanted to say, you're inspiring," he said, his voice tinged with admiration. Emily smiled warmly, encouraging him to interact with the dogs. "They're the real stars," she replied modestly. "All I do is guide them." Later, as she sat outside the kennels with Titan resting his head on her knee and Luna curled up at her feet, Emily reflected on how far she'd come. From the days when colleagues doubted her abilities to now, when strangers hailed her as a hero, her journey had been one of perseverance and trust. She realized that moments like these, when challenges turned into opportunities, were what made her job so rewarding. Though life would soon return to its usual rhythm, Emily knew this experience would stay with her forever. It wasn't just about teaching a group of bikers a lesson. It was about breaking stereotypes, fostering understanding, and honoring the incredible bond she shared with her dogs. And as she gazed at Titan and Luna, their loyalty unwavering, she felt grateful for them, for her career, and for the chance to make a difference, one step at a time. In the weeks that followed, Emily's life settled back into its usual rhythm. The viral video of her encounter with the bikers continued to circulate online, sparking conversations far beyond what she had anticipated. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a powerful example of resilience and teamwork. Social media was flooded with messages from people inspired by her courage and the discipline of Titan and Luna. Some shared stories of their own experiences working with service animals, while others expressed newfound respect for K-9 units in law enforcement and the military. For Emily, the attention was unexpected but deeply meaningful. It wasn't just about her. It was about shining a light on the incredible work done by handlers and their dogs every day. The incident also had a ripple effect within her unit. Recruits who once viewed K-9 training as secondary to other roles began showing more interest in the program. During training exercises, Emily noticed a shift in how her peers interacted with her and her dogs. There was a newfound appreciation for the skill and dedication required to handle such high-stakes responsibilities. Even seasoned officers started asking questions about the nuances of K-9 training, eager to understand what made teams like hers so effective. It was clear that the event had sparked curiosity and respect, not just for Emily, but for all K-9 handlers. One afternoon, Emily received an invitation to speak at a local community event honoring veterans and first responders. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she wanted to step into the public eye again. But Captain Harris encouraged her, reminding her of the impact she could have. "This is bigger than you now," he said gently. "People need to hear your story, not because you're special, but because it represents something greater." With that encouragement, Emily agreed, knowing it was an opportunity to advocate for K-9 programs and highlight the importance of supporting service animals. At the event, Emily stood before a packed auditorium, her heart pounding as she looked out at the sea of faces. Titan and Luna sat calmly beside her, their presence commanding immediate attention. She spoke candidly about her journey, the challenges she faced as a female handler, the bond she built with her dogs, and the lessons learned along the way. When she recounted the confrontation with the bikers, the audience erupted into applause, moved by her humility and strength. By the end of her speech, many attendees approached her to thank her, not just for her service, but for inspiring them to see service animals in a new light. Back at the base, Emily returned to her routine with renewed purpose. While the outside world celebrated her as a symbol of determination and grit, she remained focused on what truly mattered: her partnership with Titan and Luna. Their daily training sessions became even more meaningful, each exercise reinforcing the trust and communication they had worked so hard to build. Whether it was navigating obstacle courses or practicing tactical maneuvers, Emily reminded herself that their success wasn't about recognition. It was about being ready for whatever came next. As months passed, the memory of the bikers faded into the background, replaced by new missions and challenges. Yet the legacy of that day lingered in subtle ways. Emily found herself mentoring younger recruits, sharing insights about perseverance and the value of teamwork. Her advice always came back to one central theme: respect isn't given, it's earned through hard work and trust. Those words resonated deeply with those who heard them, shaping the next generation of handlers. On quiet evenings, when the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Emily would sit outside the kennels with Titan and Luna by her side. They were no longer just her dogs. They were family, partners, and confidants. As she watched them rest contentedly, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life hadn't always been easy, but every challenge had led her here, to this moment, surrounded by unconditional loyalty and love. For Emily, the true measure of success wasn't fame or accolades. It was knowing that she had made a difference, not just for herself, but for others. Through her actions, she had shown the world that strength comes in many forms, and that the bonds we forge with our companions, our colleagues, and our communities are what define us. And as long as she had Titan and Luna by her side, she knew she could face anything life threw her way. The aftermath of the confrontation left a profound silence in its wake. The bikers, humiliated and defeated, scrambled to collect themselves, their earlier bravado replaced by nervous fumbling. The leader muttered under his breath as he helped one of his fallen comrades to his feet, his face flushed with embarrassment. Another biker dusted off his leather jacket, avoiding eye contact with Emily and her dogs altogether. Their motorcycles, once symbols of power and intimidation, now seemed like nothing more than noisy machines that had failed them when it mattered most. Emily stood tall, her posture unwavering as she surveyed the scene. She didn't gloat or rub the victory in their faces. Instead, she exuded calm authority, her presence commanding respect even in the quiet moments. Behind her, Titan and Luna remained alert, their eyes fixed on the retreating group. Though the immediate threat was neutralized, they were still poised to act if needed. Emily gave them a soft command: relax. And both dogs eased slightly, their rigid stances softening but their focus unbroken. As the bikers began to mount their bikes, one of them turned back briefly, his voice tinged with a mix of frustration and begrudging admiration. "You're tougher than you look," he muttered, almost reluctantly. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough for someone like him, a man who clearly wasn't used to admitting defeat. Emily didn't respond. She simply nodded, acknowledging his words without gloating. Her expression remained steady, betraying neither satisfaction nor anger. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proving a point. The crowd of onlookers, which had grown during the tense standoff, erupted into murmurs of approval. Some clapped softly, while others exchanged impressed glances. A young boy in the crowd pointed excitedly at Titan and Luna, whispering to his mother, "They're like superheroes." Emily couldn't help but crack a small smile at the comment. To her, these dogs weren't heroes. They were partners, extensions of herself. But she understood why people saw them that way. After all, how often did you witness such loyalty, discipline, and raw skill in action? Once the bikers had sped away, leaving only the faint echo of their engines behind, Emily knelt beside Titan and Luna, running her hands gently over their coats. "Good job, my brave ones," she whispered, her voice filled with pride and affection. Both dogs wagged their tails enthusiastically, leaning into her touch. Despite the chaos, they hadn't hesitated to follow her commands, trusting her completely even in the heat of the moment. That bond, the unspoken understanding between handler and canine, was something no amount of mockery or arrogance could break. Nearby, a few townsfolk approached cautiously, eager to express their support. An elderly man tipped his hat respectfully and said, "Ma'am, I haven't seen anything like that in years. Those dogs are incredible." A woman holding a toddler added, "And so are you. You handled yourself beautifully." Emily thanked them graciously, though she felt a pang of humility. She wasn't looking for praise or recognition. She just wanted to protect her team and stand up for what they represented. As the crowd dispersed, Emily took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle. The adrenaline that had coursed through her veins during the confrontation was slowly fading, replaced by a sense of clarity. These kinds of challenges, moments where she had to defend not only herself, but also her profession and her dogs, were never easy. But they reminded her why she loved what she did. Every insult hurled, every doubt cast, only strengthened her resolve to prove the value of her work and the dedication of her companions. Before heading back toward the base, Emily paused to give Titan and Luna one last pat. "Let's go home," she said softly, clipping their leashes back onto their collars. As they walked away, side by side, the trio moved with a quiet confidence that spoke volumes. They didn't need cheers or applause to validate their actions. For Emily and her dogs, the true reward lay in knowing they had stood together, unshaken by fear or intimidation. Though the day had started as an ordinary outing, it had become something far greater, a testament to resilience, teamwork, and the unbreakable bond between human and animal. And while Emily knew life would return to normal soon enough, this moment would stay etched in her memory, a reminder of the strength found in unity and trust. The challenge was set, and the tension in the air was palpable. Emily stood tall, her eyes locked on the bikers as she gave them a final warning. "Try to get past my dogs." Her voice was calm, but carried an unshakable authority that made it clear she wasn't bluffing. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier bravado wavering, but pride, and perhaps a bit of drunken stubbornness, kept them from backing down. They revved their motorcycles, the loud growl of engines filling the street as they prepared to make their move. The leader of the group smirked, trying to mask his uncertainty. "Watch out, boys," he said, feigning confidence. "We're about to show this lady how real men ride." His friends chuckled nervously, but there was a flicker of hesitation in their expressions. None of them had expected Emily to call their bluff, and now they were caught between looking foolish or facing whatever came next. Still, fueled by adrenaline and peer pressure, they decided to press forward. With a roar, the first biker gunned his engine and sped directly toward Emily and her dogs. Titan, who had been watching the scene unfold with calculated focus, sprang into action at Emily's sharp whistle. Like a streak of lightning, he bolted toward the speeding motorcycle. Using his training to perfection, Titan targeted the front wheel, grabbing it with precision. The sudden jolt caused the bike to swerve violently, sending the rider tumbling onto the grass. The man scrambled to his feet, his face pale with shock as he stared at the dog that had just brought him down so effortlessly. Before anyone could react, the second biker charged ahead, thinking he could outmaneuver the dogs. But Luna was already on the move. She darted around the motorcycle with incredible speed, barking ferociously to disorient the rider. Her sharp movements startled him, causing him to lose balance. Panicked, he tried to steady himself, but it was too late. He fell off his bike, landing hard on the pavement. As he lay there, dazed and humiliated, Luna circled him, her piercing gaze leaving no room for doubt. Any further attempt would end the same way. The remaining bikers froze, their confidence shattered. What had started as a taunting game had turned into something far more serious. These weren't ordinary dogs. They were highly trained professionals capable of taking down even the toughest opponents. Each bark, each movement, radiated discipline and purpose. The bikers realized too late that they had underestimated both Emily and her canine partners. Emily watched silently as her dogs neutralized two threats within seconds. She didn't need to say a word. Her expression said it all. There was no malice in her eyes, only a quiet determination to protect what mattered most to her. Behind her, Titan and Luna stood side by side, their bodies tense and ready for anything. Their low growl served as a warning to the remaining bikers. Don't test us again. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The crowd of onlookers who had gathered during the commotion watched in stunned silence. Some clapped softly, impressed by the display of skill and control. Others whispered among themselves, marveling at how quickly the situation had shifted. The once arrogant bikers now looked like cornered animals, unsure of what to do next. Their laughter had vanished, replaced by awkward shuffling and nervous glances. Finally, the leader of the group stepped forward, his hands raised in surrender. Okay, he stammered, his voice lacking its earlier cockiness. We get it. You've made your point. His friends nodded hastily, helping each other up and retreating to their bikes without another word. Within moments, they were speeding away, their engines fading into the distance. As the dust settled, Emily exhaled slowly, allowing herself a brief moment of relief. She knelt beside Titan and Luna, running her hands over their sleek coats to check for any injuries. Both dogs wagged their tails, their loyalty unwavering despite the chaos they'd just faced. Emily smiled faintly, her heart swelling with gratitude for her companions. Once again, they had proven why they were such an extraordinary team. Though the confrontation was over, Emily knew this moment would stay with her, and with the bikers, for a long time. It wasn't just about teaching them a lesson. It was about reminding everyone present that respect couldn't be demanded. It had to be earned. And today, Emily and her dogs had earned it in spades. The air crackled with tension as Emily stood her ground, her piercing gaze locked onto the leader of the bikers. Her voice, though calm, carried a sharp edge that demanded attention. You've had your fun, she said firmly, her words cutting through the noise like a knife. Now back off before things get worse. For a moment, there was silence. The bikers exchanged glances, some of them smirking, others looking uncertain. They weren't used to being challenged, especially not by someone who looked so unassuming. But the leader wasn't ready to back down. He took another step forward, his towering frame looming over Emily. His smirk widened as he leaned in closer, his voice dripping with mockery. Or what? He sneered. What are you gonna do, huh? Cry for help? His friends erupted into laughter again, clearly egging him on. One of them shouted, Yeah, we'd love to see those puppy dogs try something. Emily didn't flinch. She knew this moment wasn't just about her. It was about respect. Respect for the countless hours she and her dogs had spent training together, respect for the sacrifices they made every day, and respect for the bond that made them an unstoppable team. These men had no idea what Titan and Luna were capable of, and their arrogance blinded them to the danger they were courting. Behind her, Titan and Luna were now fully alert, their bodies tense and ready to spring into action. Titan's deep growl rumbled low in his throat, a warning that sent chills down the spines of anyone close enough to hear it. Luna's sharp eyes darted between the bikers, her focus unwavering. Though they remained still for now, it was clear they were waiting for Emily's signal, and when it came, they would act without hesitation. The leader of the group seemed unfazed by the dog's presence. He waved a dismissive hand at Titan, scoffing, "Big deal. What's he gonna do, lick me to death?" Then, to prove his point, or perhaps out of sheer recklessness, he reached out toward Titan, attempting to pat him on the head. It was a foolish move. In an instant, Titan reacted, snapping his jaws inches from the man's outstretched hand. The biker stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet as he yelped in shock. His bravado vanished in that split second, replaced by wide-eyed fear. The other bikers froze, their laughter dying abruptly. But one of them, emboldened by alcohol and peer pressure, decided to take matters into his own hands. Grabbing a stick from the ground, he hurled it at Luna, striking her lightly on the flank. The dog let out a startled yelp, jerking away instinctively. Emily's heart clenched at the sound, but she forced herself to stay composed. She stepped forward, placing herself squarely between the bikers and her dogs, her expression cold and unyielding. "That's enough," she said, her voice slicing through the air like steel. "You don't want to mess with us." Her words hung there, heavy with meaning. The bikers hesitated, their earlier bravado wavering. But instead of backing off, the leader doubled down, sneering. "Prove it, sweetheart. Show us what your fancy lapdogs can really do." Emily's jaw tightened. She had hoped to avoid confrontation, but these men had left her no choice. With a deep breath, she turned to face them fully, her posture radiating authority. "Fine," she said, her tone steady. "Try to get past my dogs. Let's see how tough you really are." The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence faltering. Still, pride wouldn't let them back down. Grinning nervously, they revved their motorcycles, thinking they could simply ride away or intimidate the trio. They underestimated Emily and her dogs, and that mistake would cost them dearly. As the first biker gunned his engine and sped toward her, Emily gave a sharp whistle. Titan sprang into action like lightning, intercepting the bike with astonishing speed. Using his training, he lunged at the front wheel, causing the rider to lose control and crash onto the grass. Before the second biker could react, Luna darted forward, barking fiercely and circling him until he dismounted in panic. Within seconds, both dogs had neutralized two threats without causing serious harm, but sending a crystal-clear message. The remaining bikers froze, their faces pale with disbelief. Their bravado crumbled as they watched Emily calmly issue commands to her loyal companions. Titan and Luna stood side by side, their piercing gazes locking onto the men, daring them to make another move. It was a lesson none of them would soon forget, a brutal reminder of the power of discipline, teamwork, and respect.